At my husband's funeral, my millionaire son revealed a shocking surprise about the mansion. "Mom, this isn't really just a house anymore." The weight of his words crashed into me like a cold wave. I stood by Tom's grave, the freshly turned earth a painful contrast to the bright spring sun. His absence carved out a hollow space in my heart, and my chest tightened with grief. I glanced at Jake, his tailored suit sharp against the sorrow-filled gathering. How had the boy I once knew become this stranger? Anguish and pride tangled within me. How could he flaunt prosperity here, where the ache of loss lingered? In the days following the funeral, the mansion felt more like a prison than a home, its echoing hallways filled with shadows. I moved through rooms rich with memories, each step heavy with nostalgia. Tom's laughter resonating in the kitchen, Jake's childhood footsteps fading into the past. The walls seemed to close in, the memories of a simpler life amplifying my grief. Then came that evening when the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the garden I once tended with so much love. The roses were in bloom, but they seemed to mock me with their beauty. I had poured my life into this garden, each flower a testament to the love Tom and I had shared. But Jake's voice shattered my reverie. "Mom," he said again, his voice steady yet trembling. "I want to turn this place into something that honors Dad." His ambitious gleam filled me with confusion. A community center? I felt my heart clench in disbelief, a fight waging inside. Conflicting thoughts raced. It was an admirable vision, but what about our family's history? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The mansion began to feel like a battlefield, where echoes of history clashed with hope for the future. Neighbors murmured, friends weighed in, their opinions knitting a blanket of tension over our already strained relationship. The laughter that once filled our lives drained away like a spring rain. All I could hear were the whispers: would I ever let go of my grief? Would I allow this project to erase Tom's legacy? As Jake's plan unfolded, pride sat heavy in my chest, intermingled with resentment. Confronting my fear of losing the last piece of Tom made the air thick and stifling. I wanted to scream at him. How dare he suggest that selling his father's legacy was how we de-honor him? What if this is how I can honor your father? Jake's plea cut through my inner turmoil, forcing me to confront his truth, which twisted painfully against my fears. That I opened my mouth to respond, my breath catching. In that moment of hesitation hung the fate of everything: the heart of our family, the future of the mansion. Just as I prepared to find my voice, the doorbell rang sharply, jolting me back as a new wave of uncertainty washed over me, shattering what little clarity remained. I hesitated for a fleeting moment, trapped in my turmoil. The doorbell rang again, insistent and jarring. It pulled at the strings of my attention, momentarily distracting me from the weight of my grief, from Jake's stoic plea. I marched through the house with purpose, each step echoing my uncertainty, my thoughts a chaotic blend of love, loss, and defiance. Who could be at the door? Did I want to confront more news, more emotional upheaval? When I opened it, it was Helen, our neighbor and an old friend from Tom's college days. Her eyes glistened with sympathy, but there was something more: a determination that shimmered beneath the surface. "I'm so sorry about Tom," she began, her voice soothing but stripped of any pleasantry. "I need to talk to you about the mansion." The invitation slipped from her lips like a talisman against my spiraling anxiety. "It's not just a house anymore," Jake's words echoed in my mind like an uninvited guest. I welcomed Helen inside, guiding her toward the living room, where the sunlight lingered, contrasting sharply with the shadows in my heart. As she sat, I sensed an ominous weight pressing on the air. "I've heard Jake's plan," she said cautiously. "Turning the place into something else, something that honors Tom," I cut in, defensively. My emotions rose up like a tide, and I fought against the narrative building in my mind. It's his house, our home. How can they just want to change it all? Helen rested her hands on her knees, her eyes narrowing, analyzing. But do you really believe that keeping it the same way will keep Tom alive in your memory? The question struck me, a pointed arrow piercing through layers of denial. I felt exposed and vulnerable, an unwitting participant in this emotional labyrinth. Overwhelmed, I turned to look out at the garden, where Tom had planted so many of those now blooming flowers. They stirred within me a bitter cocktail of nostalgia and melancholy. Tom loved this house, I murmured softly, guilt simmering at the edges of my thoughts. There's no way I can let it go. Is that what it's about, or is it fear? Her words hung heavy in the air. It was a question that demanded exploration, a probing into the depths of my psyche that I was not ready to face. I clenched my fists, a defensive posture against the discomfort rising within me. Helen leaned closer, her intensity undeniable. What do you fear the most? Losing your memory of him, or losing control over your future? A storm of conflicting emotions crashed within me, the inevitability of change looming like a dark cloud. Reflecting on my life, I realized I had always let Tom's legacy define the borders of my existence. In the embrace of his memory, I had sheltered my heart from the transforming possibilities ahead. I don't want to dishonor him, I whispered, more to myself than to her. Helen stood, resolute now, as if she were spurring me toward an essential realization. But perhaps embracing what could be is an honor, too. Her words ignited a flicker of possibility amidst the fear. I could take this opportunity. Perhaps it was time to carve out a new path, to untangle my essence from the past. As I stood to see her out, the tension began to shift slightly. Maybe confronting this change could lead me to understanding more about my own desires and fears. As Helen left, I looked back at the long hallway that led to Tom's study, memories flooding back in a tumultuous wave. The door to that chapter of my life felt ajar, teetering between a past I craved and a path I had yet dared to explore. In the quiet aftermath of our conversation, a growing sense of determination swelled inside me, demanding action. I took a deep breath, my mind racing with possibilities. Maybe sharing my worries with Jake, reconciling my grief with his vision, could steer us towards something new. The mansion could become a haven, a testament to both Tom's legacy and our evolving futures. As the night deepened outside, I grappled with the profound question that now loomed before me: did I have the courage to confront my past, even as I sought a new beginning? The sun dipped lower in the sky as I paced the living room, energy bubbling beneath my skin. Helen's words lodged themselves in my thoughts like grains of sand, irritating yet stirring. I glanced at the mantelpiece, where photographs of Tom and me lined up like nostalgic sentinels, each frame a reminder of an unscripted life woven together over years. A surge of resolve propelled me toward the future, yet I felt tethered, as if the past held me in a gentle but firm grip. Preparing to face Jake would require more than just consideration, this needed strategy and confrontation. Our discussions had often been fraught with emotional landmines, unspoken hurts mingled with the love that still lingered. His father's deep-rooted vision for the mansion had reframed our lives in a way that felt unsettling. Could I voice my dissent? Or would it merely fortify the distance between us, deepening our shared grief into personal isolation? I sat down at the kitchen table, plucking at the edge of a paper napkin while my thoughts scuttled through scenarios, debating the weight of my words. The conversation I must have with Jake was no longer just tactical, it felt essential, a crossroads between honoring Tom and embracing the void he left. Do I focus solely on preserving memories of him, or must I consider what the future could hold for me, for us? At that moment, the door swung open, and Jake walked in, his form casting a long shadow over the threshold. His expression was guarded, evidential of another arduous day. Anxiety tingled in my fingers as I prepared for this critical conversation, but I could feel the air shift at his presence. "Hey, you," he said, his eyes searching mine, as if trying to decode my silent turmoil. "Hey," I replied, an unexpected tightness in my throat. "We need to talk." He paused, the weight of my tone evidently resonating. "About what?" "The mansion," I managed, my heart racing. "And what happens next?" His brow furrowed ever so slightly, a sign he understood the gravity of the topic. "I know you've heard the plans," he began, tension thickening the air between us. "But reshaping it isn't just about changing walls, it's about creating something that reflects who we are now." My pulse quickened. But what if who we are now should also include a memory of Tom? It feels like abandoning everything when there's so much left to hold on to. Jake stepped closer, his voice quieting to a near whisper. I feel that too. But keeping it in stasis traps us. It's not just about holding on to him, it's about living for ourselves and moving forward. His words resonated, yet I felt a conflict swell within me. How many times had I let his aspirations dictate my own? Could I navigate this landscape without losing myself completely in his vision? It's hard to see it that way, I said, the trembling of my resolve evident even to myself. His gaze softened, revealing the vulnerability diluting his staunch facade. What if we find a balance? Maybe, we can choose elements that honor my father while carving out a space for our growth. It doesn't have to be an either/or proposition. I watched him, the flicker of possibility igniting hope within me. Maybe this moment wasn't just about clinging to the past, but about redefining our joint future. A new beginning, I echoed, my voice thick with the realization. This could be an opportunity for us both. He nodded gently, a tentative understanding blossoming between us. We can reshape it together. For him. For us. A sense of empowerment whispered through the remnants of grief, a fresh narrative beginning to unfold. The path would be intricate, rife with negotiations of love and loss, but I felt a flicker of freedom in embracing both my husband's legacy and the life that lay ahead. As we shared brief glances, ideas swirling and settling like dust, I knew I had to remain vigilant. I had glimpsed transformative potential, a way to navigate emotions that had buried me for too long. I could feel the next step looming before me, a revelation waiting to be surfaced, and just then, as if fate were orchestrating our conversation, I caught sight of the grandfather clock in the corner, its ticking echoing our breaths in sync, leading me toward the question that now consumed me. Would I ultimately have the strength to design a space worthy of both Tom's memory and the future Jake and I could build together? The next morning dawned, lights spilling softly into the kitchen as I brewed my coffee, my mind focused on the conversation that lay ahead. Each sip felt like a prelude to something significant, layered with anticipation and apprehension. I was ready to make a plan. We needed to establish what this new mansion and new home would signify for both Jake and me. I set about jotting down my thoughts, each word deliberate. A list of elements that represented Tom, items that held memories worth preserving, mixed with aspirations I had for the future. Would it be a gallery of his life, or a blank canvas waiting for our new chapter to be painted upon it? I wanted to honor the man my husband had been, but it was crucial to ensure that Jake and I could step forward without feeling haunted by the shadows of our past. The door swung open again, this time revealing Jake with a brace of sketches in his hands. The sunlight framed him in a gold hue, and it struck me how much he resembled his father in moments like this, driven, passionate, but also vulnerable in his earnestness. I immediately felt a pang of empathy. He was navigating the waters of loss as much as I was, perhaps in different ways, but both of us burdened nonetheless. Morning, he said, offering a tentative smile that lit up his features, yet behind it, I noticed uncertainty dancing in his eyes. I wanted to share these with you. He laid the sketches on the table, revealing his visions of the home. I leaned forward, examining the designs. They were ambitious, filled with open spaces and modern lines, a sharp divergence from the Victorian charm of the mansion. These are bold, I remarked, the words trailing off as I fought to mask my mixed feelings. Right? I know it feels drastic, he began, rushing to defend his vision. But what if we infuse the old with the new? We can modernize without completely erasing Tom's essence. His earnestness was palpable, yet it tugged at my heart, forming a knot of conflict. I appreciated his creativity but bristled at the thought of losing the mansion's spirit altogether. But don't you think we could design it in a way that still respects its history? Maybe incorporating elements that keep Tom front and center? He rubbed the back of his neck, a telltale sign he was grappling with something significant. I want to preserve memories, but I also see a future where we aren't solely defined by our losses. His words struck a chord, making me ponder, could we merge our visions into an architectural reconciliation of the past and future? Did I have the confidence to weave my narrative alongside Jake's desires without losing myself? I think we need to work together on this, I said slowly, trying to navigate this emotionally fraught territory. Let us create a space for our memories, but also make it one that speaks to what we might become. Jake nodded, hope igniting in his eyes, but a shadow of doubt loomed over me. How would we balance the intricacies of our emotional landscapes while building this home? Would it lead us to a deeper connection, or would it uncover cracks we had yet to address? As we dove into a brainstorming session, the clock ticked steadily, each second a reminder of decisions that would shape our lives. Could I manage my expectations, my past alongside our vision for a shared future? The realization sank in, this was not just about the mansion. I was confronting the essence of who I was, what I wanted to become, and the kind of partnership Jake and I could foster. And as we sketched our ideas together, I recognized I was stepping into an uncharted territory and opportunity to assert my space within this narrative. Yet a question lingered, tension twisting in my gut. Would the delicate balance we aimed to construct be strong enough to endure the trials ahead? As the sun climbed higher, illuminating the kitchen with a golden shimmer, I felt the weight of my thoughts intensifying. Jake's sketches lay in front of me, vibrant visions clashing with the history embedded within the mansion's walls. This was more than an architectural debate, it was a visceral test of our identities, a collision of past grief and future aspirations. I wanted to honor the house's legacy while carving out a place for ourselves, a task that began to feel monumental. That I caught a glimpse of Jake, who was rifling through his sketches, biting his lip, lost in concentration. What if we create a wall of memories? One side could celebrate Tom's life, and the other could be dynamic, a space for new experiences. The idea tumbled out of my mouth before I had the chance to filter it. I was suggesting a way to merge our worlds, a potential lifeline to reshape our grief into something proactive. That could work, he mused, a frown of contemplation furrowing his brow. Like a tribute on one side and our journey on the other. A flicker of enthusiasm crossed his features amidst the clouds of uncertainty. But skepticism nagged at my mind. But how do we avoid the wall becoming a shrine? I don't want it to feel like we're locked away in the past. Jake glanced up, a spark of defiance lighting his eyes. What if the vintage details photos, mementos are paired with photos of our future? His concept sparked an unexpected thrill within me, yet I hesitated, weighing the thoughts. Are we ready to step into a future before we properly process the past? As Jake began sketching ideas for a wall that would juxtapose our history with our aspirations, I felt a profound shift. It wasn't just about the mansion anymore, it was about who we were as a family. By envisioning a space that honored Tom and embraced new beginnings, we were building the foundation of our partnership not just in design, but in healing. You know, I said, testing the waters, the more I think about it, the more I realize how important it is for us to have collective input. Maybe we should invite a few of Tom's closest friends to share their insights. What was it about him that they cherished? They might offer details we haven't even considered. Jake nodded, and the tension in his shoulders eased slightly. That's a great idea. It could bring a sense of closure to all of us. It's just personal for me. His admission startled me. It made me realize how often I had overlooked his perspective. While I had been focused on the need for balance in our emotional landscape, I had to remember that Jake's relationship with Tom had its complexities. I had my grief, he had his. Arranging a dialogue with Tom's friends could help us both process, allowing Jake to articulate what his father meant to him in a supportive environment. As our plans began to crystallize, a nagging question persisted in the back of my mind: what if I didn't like the insights they provided? Would their memories obliterate my vision? How far could I push for the mansion to encapsulate our transformation without losing the nuances of Tom's legacy? An unexpected flutter of excitement mixed with trepidation. I took a deep breath, the aroma of brewing coffee grounding me as I attempted to clear my mind. This process, painful as it was, beckoned me to uncover facets of myself long hidden beneath the weight of grief. As we moved the conversation toward gathering friends and interviewing them, a newfound determination latched onto my heart. I was ready to not only collaborate with Jake, but to speak up, to assert my contributions, and navigate the emotional landscape of loss boldly. But just as I began to feel a surge of confidence, Jake's phone buzzed on the table. His expression darkened as he read the message. "It's Mom," he said, the color draining from his face. "She wants to meet. She says she has something important to discuss." A wave of unease washed over me. What could possibly require an urgent meeting? The future of our home and the delicate journey we were embarking on suddenly hung on precarious strings, threatening to unravel at any moment. The intricacies of our tasks loomed larger, the obstacles potentially insurmountable. My resolve was tested yet again, and as I steeled myself for what lay ahead, a deep inner voice warned, the real challenge was only just beginning. The urgency of Jake's mother's message hung in the air like a storm cloud. I felt a tightening in my chest, a mix of concern for Jake and apprehension for myself. Was I ready for whatever news awaited us? Family dynamics can swell with expectations, and in this delicate phase of our lives, everything felt magnified. Jake stood frozen, his phone still clutched in his hand. The weight of his mother's presence felt like an anchor, pinning us down in a moment filled with tension. I think I should go alone, he finally ventured, his voice steadier than I anticipated. No, I replied impulsively, a surge of protectiveness rising within me. You shouldn't face her by yourself. Whatever it is, we're in this together. He turned to me, gratitude shining through his uncertainty. You think so? I mean, she'll probably want to talk about Tom, and that's hard for me. Rubbing my temples, I took a deep breath. It's hard for both of us, Jake. But this is also about us moving forward. If she has something important to discuss, I want both of us to hear it. We can't avoid conversations forever. I sensed my own trepidation reflected in his eyes, but the sentiment lingered that perhaps I was underestimating how deeply complicated things could get. With Tom gone, so much had changed. The walls of this mansion, filled with memories of laughter and love, felt more like an oppressive reminder of all we had lost. The discussion we'd initiated about reaching out to Tom's friends suddenly seemed inconsequential next to the weight of this impending conversation. I could see how easily it could steer our lives off course, depending on Jake's mother's message. Would it lead to understanding, or would it plunge us into deeper uncertainty? After a brief moment of contemplation, Jake seemed to collect himself. Let us go. I think it'll be easier if we face it head on. We drove in silence, the rhythm of the road a backdrop to our turbulent thoughts. Jake's hand gripped the steering wheel tight enough to turn his knuckles white, while I sat beside him, restless energy mingling with my concern. Upon arriving, I noticed the familiar facade of the house where Jake had grown up, a towering presence that had watched over countless family gatherings. But today, it felt ominous, casting long shadows against the backdrop of our anxiety. The moment we stepped inside, Jake's mother greeted us, her gaze penetrating yet laden with grief, a potent reminder of our shared loss. We settled into the living room, the air palpably charged. I could sense Jake's discomfort. He fiddled with his watch while his mother's eyes flickered between us, gauging our readiness. I'm glad you both came, she began, her voice trembling ever so slightly. I needed to discuss something important with you regarding the mansion. Each word she spoke was measured, revealing layers of emotion that swirled within her. I could only imagine what the news could entail: the financial burdens, the potential legacy, the dreams Tom had once shared. Each detail felt like a thread woven into the intricate tapestry of our shared past, now begging to be unraveled. What is it, Mom? Jake pressed, his voice firm despite the anxiety lurking beneath the surface. The mansion, the will has been updated, she hesitated, the weight of the words hanging suspended. The estate's future isn't what we thought it was. A rush of emotions surged through me: fear, confusion, dread. What could this possibly mean for Jake and me? The conversations about honoring Tom, melding our histories with our ambitions, but how could we move forward if the foundations we thought we had weren't as stable as we believed? As realization settled in, I noticed the tension shift in the room. I leaned forward, ready to confront whatever complexities lay ahead. Each moment pulsed with potential, igniting questions I hadn't yet acknowledged. Jake shot me a glance, seeking reassurance amid the unknown. The revelation impended, ready to shift the landscape of our lives dramatically, but as his mother opened her mouth to continue, a realization struck me: the very future of our newfound partnership and possibly the mansion itself was at stake. What lay ahead would test the very core of our resolve. Mom, Jake urged, just tell us what it means. And so, as the thread of our conversation began to unravel, I faced an unmistakable truth. I was ready to confront the deepest shadows of our intertwined fates, no matter the consequences that awaited in the light. The atmosphere thickened as Jake's mother finally gathered the resolve to explain the situation. The changes in the will reflect adjustments Tom made prior to his passing. The mansion, along with the surrounding property, is set to be sold. Her words landed like heavy stones, and I felt the palpable shock reverberate through Jake's frame. "What?" he exclaimed, disbelief etching deep lines across his brow. "You can't be serious." Why would he do that? He believed it was best to manage our finances more effectively. He wanted to relieve the burden of upkeep, especially after her voice faltered, the pain of her loss rippling through her. Tom thought it was time to let go of this place. But to me, it wasn't just the estate, it represented everything Jake and I were trying to build together. The updates to the will seemed to siphon the very foundations of what we were striving for. My heart pounded, unearthing a deep-seated fear that we had endeavored to contain. What if this decision fractured the fragile alliance we were forging, leaving no choice but to retreat into the shadows of our past? "Selling the mansion means giving up on all the memories Tom fought to preserve," I interjected, trying to connect the emotional dots while diving deeper into the implications. "It feels like you're erasing a part of him." My voice trembled, but I pressed on. "We can't just let go without exploring every option." Jake's mother's eyes sparkled with an intensity born of grief, a woman determined to defend her late husband's choices despite the heartache. "But what are the alternatives? Keeping it just to cling to memories?" she challenged. "You think it would be easy for me to let it go? This place holds my life's history. But we need to think clearly. This isn't just emotionally difficult, it's practical." Her response ignited an internal storm within Jake. I watched as he wrestled with the conflict before us. We were standing on the precipice of defining our future, and Jake needed to seize control over the decision that lay hidden in the depths of his grieving heart. "We need every detail," he finally replied, his voice steadying as if moving through fog toward clarity. "Let us discuss the financial implications of selling versus keeping the estate. If there's a way to honor Dad's memory while managing the realities of the situation, we have to explore it." I admired the resolve blooming in him. This was the Jake I wanted to bolster, the one who wouldn't shy away from difficult decisions but instead faced them head-on. It became clear to me that we could use this moment not just as a concession to grief but as a catalyst for growth. As we navigated the complexities of the discussion, I began to sense my own agency amid the turmoil. I realized that this might be a chance for me to step into a more active role in Jake's life, not just as a supportive partner but as someone who could help him chart a path forward. For the next hour, we debated, dissecting every aspect of retaining the mansion and the emotional versus practical shortfalls it entailed. Concepts of a potential sale morphed into strategic talks about investments that could innovate rather than dissipate the legacy. But as our conversation began to tire, an unsettling thought uncoiled in my mind. What if the resistance to moving forward proved more significant than our desires? What if Jake's mother insisted on preserving her late husband's wishes at the cost of our plans? Then, right as Jake was about to speak again, a text notification chimed on his phone. He glanced down, something twisting in his gut. The moment he read the message, a different kind of tension seized the air. This just can't be right," he murmured, eyes wide. "I need to know who else is involved in this." A chill washed over me. If the news was unspooling more revelations, we might not be ready for what awaited us. But perhaps this was yet another layer we needed to confront, an unfolding truth that would test our resolve in ways we hadn't anticipated. What if more hidden ties to Tom's legacy threatened to pull us apart rather than unite us? As Jake's focus shifted to the ominous glare of his phone screen, I felt a wave of uncertainty wash over me. I braced for what would come next. The implications of the message could very well redefine our pursuit to reclaim what we thought was ours. Jake stared at his phone, the glow illuminating a mixture of confusion and dread on his face. "Who's involved?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. The chill in my spine spread through me, replacing the fire of determination that had surged during our earlier discussions. "I don't know yet," Jake replied, scrolling back through the message with an increasing intensity. This doesn't make sense. He glanced up, his expression firming into something resolute. I need to get to the bottom of this. As he dialed a number, I felt a swell of urgency building within me. I wanted to be there for him, to support him as he navigated through this tempest of emotions and family matters. Yet, a voice in the back of my mind cautioned me against overstepping. This was his domain, and I was merely a companion, a support that might fade into the background if I wasn't careful. Jake spoke with the caller, his tone oscillating between frustration and determination. I could hear the words mansion and stake slicing through the air, revealing a dimension of the situation I hadn't yet considered. I could sense everything shifting yet again, like tectonic plates moving beneath our feet. Okay. I'll meet you there, he finally said before ending the call. What did they say? I pressed, desperately seeking clarity amidst the whirlwind of uncertainty. That he took a deep breath, his shoulders rising and falling in an almost defeated manner. There's someone else who has an interest in the estate, someone I didn't think would come into play. His voice trembled slightly as he continued. A family friend of Dad's apparently, he has a claim. A silence cloaked the room, winding around us like ivy creeping along a fence. The revelation settled in the back of my mind, gnawing away at the resolve we had begun to construct together. There were more players in this game than we had anticipated, and the stakes had risen significantly. Who? I asked, though I could feel dread coiling tighter in my stomach. His gaze shifted to the floor, almost as if he couldn't bear to meet my eyes. I don't know for sure yet, but if it has anything to do with Tom's finances, it could affect everything we've discussed. The air grew heavier. The thought that anyone could have a vested interest in the mansion felt like an invasion of our space, of our grief. This wasn't just about property, it was about the memories, the legacy, and the promise of what could be. We need to prepare ourselves, I said cautiously, trying to bring a measure of control back to the situation. Do you think this could lead to a confrontation? If they think they have a claim, they might be unwilling to compromise. Jake looked up at me, and the flicker of understanding in his eyes startled me. It was as if he saw me not just as a partner, but as an equal in this unfolding battle. Exactly, he replied, nodding. We need a plan. We need to know our rights, their rights, and everything we might be up against. I felt the spark of initiative flaring again within me, ignited by Jake's focused determination. This was our moment, not just to react but to act, and it was time for both of us to step into our power. I can help with that, I offered, my tone transitioning from mere support to active participation. I can research the legal aspects, what we might face if this escalates. If we need to consult a lawyer, I'll find one. Jake's expression brightened ever so slightly. Right, he said, and I could hear the flicker of hope that he seemed to draw from my commitment. Let us make a list of what we know and what we need to verify, I suggested as thoughts coursed through my mind. Details, plans, and strategies were swirling within me. This could be the push we needed, not just to retain the mansion but to solidify our partnership, to build a future together against the odds. As we began shaping our plan, a daunting thought crested in my mind: how deeply rooted were these ties within Tom's legacy? And more importantly, what if this encounter revealed truths about Jake and us that we weren't quite ready to confront, just as Jake began drafting our checklist? Another text notification lit up his screen. His fingers froze above the screen, a look of disbelief washing over his face. This doesn't make sense, he murmured, the color draining from his complexion. The message says, there are demands. A cascade of uncertainty surged through my chest. Demand. That single word seemed to lift the veil of possibility, hinting at pressures that could shake the very foundation of our emerging plans. What kind of demands? And from whom? As panic flared in the pit of my stomach, I leaned closer, bracing myself to face whatever storm awaited us next. Jake blinked at the phone, his expression morphing from confusion to sheer disbelief. He repeated the word demands under his breath as if testing its weight. I leaned in closer, the fear that had settled in my chest coiling tighter. What kind of demands could shake up everything we thought we had under control? Moving swiftly past the dread, I tried to focus on what I could control. We need to see the message, I urged, my voice steady despite the turmoil within. Let us break it down. If we know the demands, we can formulate a strategy. We'll need every scrap of information we can muster. With hesitation, he handed me the phone. The message was brief but loaded. I have claims on the estate. I expect to meet at the mansion tomorrow. Prepare yourself. The finality of those words reverberated in my mind. It felt more like a threat than a request, and suddenly, our plans, our hopes, felt like they hung by a thread. What do you know about this person? I asked, my mind racing with questions. Each second felt stretched thin, time slipping away as the reality of the situation dawned on us. Jake took a deep breath, grounding himself. I've heard of him, Oliver Reed. He was my dad's friend from college, always showing up at family gatherings, but I thought he had moved on. Apparently, he hasn't forgotten the old connections, nor the potential riches they might offer. Maybe he believes the estate is more than just property to you. Maybe he sees an opportunity, I mused, letting my analytical side take the lead. What if he tries to manipulate this situation? We need to outmaneuver him before he even shows up. Jake nodded, his jaw tightening with renewed determination. You're right. I want to confront him, but I don't want to do it recklessly. We need to understand his motivation first. The last thing we want is a confrontation that spirals out of control. A thought struck me, sending chills down my spine even though I was excited to explore the new possibilities. What if we can get him to lay out his cards first? If we can understand what he wants and why, we can either turn the demands back on him or find loopholes he didn't see coming. Can we invite him to meet us instead? If he is coming to the mansion tomorrow, we could suggest discussing things now, Jake suggested hesitantly, though the edge in his voice spoke of his readiness to stand firm against whatever came next. Let us play it smarter, I urged, feeling the rush of adrenaline. We'll reach out to him. In the meantime, I'll do a deep dive into estate law and validate our claims on the property. If he wants to play hardball, we can have the legal ground to stand on. Jake's posture shifted slightly, a glimmer of respect in his eyes. Never thought I'd see the day where my partner would be ready to snatch the upper hand, he said lightly, attempting to mask the tension with humor. Humor was a welcome reprieve, but the stakes were too high. I felt the weight of responsibility settle on my shoulders. Perhaps confronting this person wouldn't just be a means to an end, it could also define who we were as partners, as a unit capable of taking on challenges together. What is your gut telling you about how this will unfold? I asked, steering us both into a moment of reflection that he paused, the thought heavy on his mind. It's going to get messy. But I can't have my father's legacy in the hands of someone who might twist it against us. It's time to reclaim not only the mansion but what it stands for. His conviction sparked a fire within me, pushing aside my fears. We weren't just fighting for a house, we were fighting for the memories, the dreams we associated with it, and the future we hoped to build. We had each other, and that was a start. Just as I formulated a plan in my head for the next steps, another message popped up on Jake's screen. The notification flashed ominously, I know things you don't. I felt my heart race. What secrets might Oliver hold? And how would they intertwine with our lives? What would we uncover next in this labyrinthine struggle against the past? Our resolve hardened. As shadows deepened with uncertainty, the path ahead remained murky, yet I sensed that the light of clarity was urging us on. We could write our own narrative, but it required the truth whatever the cost. The moment had arrived to wrestle not just with Oliver but perhaps with the darker secrets lurking beneath the surface of Tom's legacy. Would we step into the light, or would the shadows swallow us whole? The days following that ominous text message stretched infinitely, cocooned in anticipation. With a shared resolve, Jake and I dove headfirst into researching our rights regarding the mansion, uncovering layers of estate law I never thought I would need to understand. Every evening, we worked late into the night, fueled by coffee and determination. The tension that previously surrounded our conversations had transformed into a palpable joint purpose, a united front against whatever storm Oliver Reed might bring. Each fact we unearthed felt empowering, like pieces of a puzzle falling into place, illuminating the murky shadows of uncertainty. As I studied legal documents and precedents, I caught glimpses of how the mansion could become a symbol of not only our past with Tom but of the new legacy Jake and I sought to build together. This was not merely a struggle for property, it was a battle for our identity as a family in the wake of loss. Days before the anticipated encounter, we finally reached out to Oliver, inviting him to meet at the mansion, a strategic play. Jake crafted the message with care, intent on drawing him into discussions, while I ensured it conveyed the sense of openness we could muster, despite the tension underlying every word. We sought to gain insight into his motivations, determined to gather intel that could work in our favor. The response was swift, revealing an eagerness to assert dominance. "Tomorrow at noon. Let us discuss," it read, punctuating the air with a sense of foreboding and volume that echoed in my mind. The stage was set, morning arrived, draped in a thick fog that seemed to mirror our apprehension. As I brewed coffee, I felt a mix of dread and exhilaration coursing through me. The mansion loomed large, its walls rich with memories and history, now heavy with expectation as we prepared to confront a claim that felt all too invasive. I glanced at Jake, seated at the table, his demeanor unusually calm despite the swirling anxiety. "Remember," I said, trying to infuse the moment with a sense of empowerment. "We're in control here. It's not just about the estate, it's a discussion about our future too. We have to represent Tom's legacy as well as our potential. Trust in our preparation." Jake nodded, but his eyes shimmered with uncertainty. "It's strange, knowing someone else could consider this mansion their investment. I don't like being confronted by a stranger over something so personal." I reached across the table, squeezing his hand. "But it's our history, too. We're not giving him the power to take it away without a fight." With that, we steeled ourselves for what was to come. When Oliver arrived, he carried an air of confidence, the kind bred from years of navigating the delicate terrain of family investments and legacies. The door creaked open, and there he stood, an unwelcome reminder of Tom's ties, yet now someone who posed an immediate threat to everything we were trying to preserve. The tension thickened, and I could feel Jake's shoulders tense beside me. "Oliver," Jake said, his voice strong yet measured. "Thanks for meeting us here." "Of course. I'd rather not take this to court if we can avoid it." "Avoids messy public disputes," Oliver responded smoothly, surveying the room as though appraising an asset. What followed was a carefully orchestrated dance of words. Every time Oliver spoke, I dissected his rhetoric and body language, parsing through his claims for any unraveling threads. He laid out his vision, how he viewed the estate as a legacy worth pursuing that echoed the fraud of personal greed wrapped in the distasteful guise of honor. "Your father intended for the estate to be used wisely. Keeping it stagnant is wasteful," he declared, at once condescending yet revealing a glimpse into his ambitions. "You should consider what it could mean for your future." Jake shot me a glance that spoke volumes. This was where we needed to dig deeper. "Oliver, it's not only about profitability. This mansion means everything to us. My father built it into a home," Jake replied, emboldened by my presence beside him. "He left us memories, a legacy rich with love that goes beyond bricks and mortar." Each word sharpened, revealing the emotional distance we intended to traverse in this conversation. With that, I seized the moment. "And if the estate were to be sold, what then? Would you truly honor Tom's memory, or will this become a tale about financial advantage? We need to ensure we're honoring the spirit of his legacy as well." The words shot from my mouth like arrows aimed directly at the heart of Oliver's pretense. Oliver's composure faltered momentarily, his eyes narrowing as he recalibrated his stance. "You think holding on to the past will keep it alive?" he challenged. "It's not just about holding on," I countered, "it's about evolving without forgetting. This estate can be both a testament to Tom's life and a platform for our future." The air shifted as we continued to weave our arguments against Oliver's claim. We employed the legal insights we gathered, revealing our comprehension of the estate laws that required more than an assumption of ownership. Each fact propelled us forward, building a firm sense of control amid the emotional swirl of memories wrapped tightly within these walls. Ultimately, the back and forth culminated in Oliver feeling cornered, realizing that the claims he believed he could assert were now muted by our thorough preparedness. "Perhaps I underestimated you both," he conceded, almost begrudgingly. And there it was, the realization that Jake and I had not only defended our shared vision but illuminated ourselves as capable partners in reclaiming our narrative. By merging Tom's legacy with our aspirations, we had forged a bond that no one else could intrude upon, a powerful shield against external uncertainties. The meeting ended, leaving Oliver reconsidering his stance. What lay ahead was unclear, but we had rediscovered our footholds, a full circle moment of reclamation. Later that evening, we sat in the garden, the roses blooming vibrantly amidst the chaos of our lives. For the first time since Tom's passing, I felt a warmth unfurling at the heart of the mansion, illuminating our pending transformation. This place would serve as a testament to everything we'd overcome and to what we still could build together. "We did it," Jake murmured, gazing at me with a blend of disbelief and pride. "We stood up for what mattered." "Yes, we did. And this is just the beginning." I allowed a smile to stretch across my face, filling the space with new warmth. We had redefined not only our vision for the mansion but our place within it, embracing the duality of holding on and moving forward. I had grown not merely through confronting a claim on the mansion but in understanding that honoring Tom's memory did not require us to live solely in the past. The mansion would become a living testament to our journey together, one imbued with past love and future potential. Our legacy, intertwined, would flourish together. Now, take this moment to reflect. Was it not also time to assist those who yearn for similar transformations? Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your support. Comment your reactions and theories about the ending. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to share. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.